This is Tom with VermiBag. This video went a lot longer than I thought it was going to. It's over 20 minutes. And what it's going to show you is the step-by-step procedures that I take to fix a VermiBag that has a zipper issue down on the harvest panel, and also to clean bag up if you start getting leachate coming through the bag, if you're running the system really wet, a way you can go through and just make it aesthetically look a lot nicer. This video is actually going to replace the harvest panel with a new one that's a different material, but I'm also going to show you how you would do it if you just wanted to fix your harvest panel that you have right now and replace the zipper pull. And normally that's the issue. If anybody's going to have a problem with their harvest panel, which you shouldn't on the newer systems, but some of the really old systems that are over 3 years old, like this one, you can have issues with the zipper pull if it gets wet. And if you're running the bag like you should, it shouldn't be an issue. But if you run the bag extremely wet and the zipper pull gets wet, it'll start corroding. So let's continue on with this video, and feel free to skip along where you want to go because again, it's pretty long. I had a customer send me a VermiBag Max that he's having an issue with the lower zipper. And I want to show you why he was having the issues, what caused it. And then I'm going to show you some other things on the bag that you might be experiencing yourself. And they normally have to do with the moisture content of the bag. If you're running the bag extremely wet and you're building up moisture either in the harvest panel or just within the bag, you're probably going to experience some of these issues. So this is the bag that we're talking about, VermiBag Max. And you can see along the sides here that we have all these areas where moisture's actually been coming through the sides of the bag. You can see here it actually been wicking through the outer port or the seam that comes down here and stuff. So that's a really good indication that this bag has been running, extremely wet. The bag can handle it, but it can cause some issues with this lower zipper if you get it too wet. And it's not the zipper itself that actually is the issue. It's this zipper pull. The zipper pull is made out of metal and it will corrode. And once it starts to corrode, you're going to be in trouble. It's hard to actually stop that. I do suggest putting a little bit of petroleum jelly on it for maintenance just to keep it from getting that corrosion ever starting. We'll pull in real close and I'll show you the issues with this bag, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do to fix it. Okay, let's take a look at this Max. Again, you can see the amount of leakage that was coming out of the bag. And again, this is indicating that the bag was really wet, especially this far up on the bag. So there was a lot of moisture on the inside and it actually wicked its way through this upper material. And this is not really super breathable material either. So it takes a fair amount of moisture in order to wick through this. But it does go to show you that this material is breathable because this stuff comes through. If liquid can come through, then of course oxygen can come through. And this one's odd because all over the place there's little spot there that was coming through here, and a couple spots over here on the other side. Another one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to clean these up a little bit and what I use just to make it aesthetics wise. This isn't going to hurt anything at all, but aesthetics wise, it's kind of ugly. You see these really bright spots like this. So to fix items like this, you really need to probably have the bag off the stand, basically empty it in order to do this full maintenance on. You could do this a little bit on the bag, but with the stuff I use, this CLR, I really don't know if I want the worms in there because you got to rinse it off good with water when you're done. You could possibly do it while it's on the system's actually active if you're real careful. But the main issue on this bag was the lower section. He was having trouble with the zipper. He said he couldn't get it to pull. He finally got it to pull again, but it basically separated on both sides. And you can just tell looking at it here that there has been a lot of leakage and stuff and moisture down in this area. But the issue again is not this zipper. This is a nylon zipper, and we'll clean this up and this will look just like brand new, and same with this one here. All this calcification that's on both sides, we can clean that up. The issue is actually this zipper pull. And if you look at that really close, you see how gray it is. I'm looking at the inside. It's all corroded. And once this thing starts to corrode, you're in trouble. This is what a new one would look like. So you can see the new one here, it's nice and shiny and black. That's why, again, I recommend you putting a little bit of Vaseline, petroleum jelly, on these poles just to try and add another layer of protection just in case they do get wet. But this is what has to be replaced. The zipper, we can fix that, get it fixed, but you're going to have to replace this pole. This system is not going to work unless you replace that pole. In order to replace that pole, we have to go back to where this cover piece is. What I'm going to do is go ahead and use a little seam ripper, and I'm going to pull this off, and then we can get at the point where these zippers come together here. We'll be able to pull this off and slide a new zipper on. Now in this particular system, I'm going to go ahead and replace the bottom harvest panel with a new one that's a lot more breathable. But you don't have to. You could actually take this panel, stick it in some of the CLR here, soak it, clean it up really good, rinse it off really well, and it would be fine. The issue with these harvest panels, especially the older ones, is I had holes punched in the bottom of these. And those holes tend to plug up. And so if they plug up, then as the moisture comes down to the bottom of the system, instead of actually dripping through here, it'll build up. And you can tell here that this moisture really built up in this because it was leaking way up here. So there was 4 or 5 inches of water, or liquid leachate in the bottom of this system. So even with a system like this, I would take like a leather awl, or a big or a small finishing nail, put it on like a vice grips, and punch about 30 small tiny holes in here just for that moisture will go ahead and free flow through here, for it won't build up in here, it'll drip out into the container that you have underneath. Like I said, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we could fix this instead of putting a new one on. But again, since I have it and he sent it to me, I'm going to go ahead and replace this with a different material that you probably won't have this issue with it because it's so breathable. So let me go ahead and open up this seam, and then we'll get this zipper off here, and I'll show you how to put this new zipper pull on. So you just got to get the end started here. Once you take off 1 or 2 of these stitches, it'll normally pull off pretty easily. Then just as you pull it apart, redo one of the, just cut the next seam just a little bit. So I have a little bit of glue on this where this comes together, and that's just to seal it for no worms could get through here and come out on this other side. So before you can, and then it's also stitched. You'll see some stitching from here to here and here to here. So first you can go ahead and just run that seam ripper through those stitches. And then you just got to remove this glue the best you can. And sometimes it's easier than other times. This time it looks like it's going to be pretty simple. So now you have the glue off here, so I can go ahead and just take this zipper pull and pull it off. And again, I wanted to show you the 2 zipper pulls here, just so you can see the difference between them. Here's the new one, of course, on this side, and the old one. And you can see the corrosion that's on this one here. Once it starts to corrode, and especially on the inside, it'll just basically, the zipper will just stick inside there. And the new one's coated with paint everywhere. And again, if you kind of lubricate this with a little petroleum jelly, it should last, unless it gets really wet. And again, this normally isn't an issue unless the bag is run extremely wet. Okay, so this is what I use to clean up these bags and get them ready again. CLR, and you can get it, I think, almost any grocery store, Home Depot and stuff like that. Now it has warnings and stuff on saying, don't drink it, it gives you instructions. When I read the label, I mean, I don't know what half the stuff really is, but for the most part, it just talks about having a whole bunch of different types of acid in here, which makes sense. You're going to use acid to, get rid of the calcium carbonate, basically, is what most of this is. But so I don't know overall the toxicity of this stuff for your worms. I've never had an issue, and I always rinse it off really well. And I also use it very diluted, but it works extremely well to clean your bags up. So this glass here, I mixed about 1 part of the CLR to 3 parts of water. So it turns it just a slightly, greenish color. So I have this, and then I have a glass of clean water, and a good scrub brush. And that's really all you need. Then I'm going to take, and you'll see how much it foams up, all along this zipper. I'm just going to go ahead and dip this into this CLR and run it along this zipper. You can see how much it foams up. I'm going to get it on both sides, on the inside of this zipper and also on the outside. Because I really want to clean this up, get all this calcification off this zipper, and then we'll rinse it off really good, and then we'll get the new harvest panel on. Now I'm just going to use a nice clean cloth. This happens to be an old t-shirt. I'm going to dip it in this water and get it pretty wet. And I'm just going to go ahead and wipe down this area really, really good. Take a look up close on this zipper now. See, it's pretty clean on that side, real clean on that side. You know, you could scrub it and actually get even more of this off if you wanted to, but you really don't have to. The whole idea is to make sure that these teeth are really clean when you put the new zipper pull on. Now let's take a look at the harvest panel itself. Now again, the harvest panel itself, you can see how much liquid has went through this. It's really sealed up, it's really hard. And again, you know, this needs to have holes punched in. It's tiny little holes. And that way, as liquid builds up in here, it can drain out. So if your system is filling up with water on the bottom, make sure, again, you get like a little finishing nail or something, use some vice grips and clamp onto it. And punch about 20 or 30, you know, quite a few tiny little holes in it. It'll allow that liquid to drain out of here. So what I'm actually going to do with this is go ahead and place the whole thing in a little bit of CLR, since I have it off, and let this thing soak for a while, and then we'll clean the whole thing up, and I'll show you how good it looks after we get done with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just pull this zipper off here and put it on a new harvest panel and put it back on the bag. Okay, so this is the harvest panel. You can see it's been bubbling up quite a bit. All I'm going to do now is just scrub it down real good. On the outside, go along those seams where was a lot of calcification and leachate coming through. You can see how nasty brown it turns. So after I rinse it off, you can tell it looks a lot nicer. There's still some staining here. I mean, it's not new, and you could get that off if you really wanted to scrub it and soak it a little bit longer. Go ahead and grab the bag, bring it over here, and I'll show you what it's like to put this new zipper pull on. If you weren't going to replace it with a different one, just find where, zoom in a little bit here for you can see. So basically this is where this is going to go. These two here go together and close up, and then the zipper will come back around to the other side. And take the zipper for the big holes are actually, you know, it's pointing that direction right here, so it feeds in. Slide it on this one here. I put my finger at the end here for it doesn't come beyond that point right there. I hold it in place. Then I just take the zipper here, slide it in there, and then try and keep that pressure on and give it a pull. Once it comes on, Now this thing's nice. I could actually voila, like that. And this thing works just fine now. It's nice and clean. Then all you'd have to do here is, one, you have to seal this. I have little metal clips that keep it, because you don't want this to pull apart right here. This area here where it started. So if you don't have the little metal clips that go in there and then clamp down on it, it's better to use some wax thread and push it through, then back up, and just tie this tight for it basically holds this together here. Now this is something you'd have to do, but I want to address these marks that are on the outside of the bag. Again, they just look kind of nasty. So they're pretty easy to at least minimize. You might not get rid of them completely, but you can really bring them down for they don't look nearly as bad. And again, all I'm doing is mixing some of that CLR, this, about 3 to 1. 1 part of the CLR and 3 parts of water. Then all I'm going to do now is just dip into here and come to these spots and just wet them down and scrub them. You see how much it foams up. You can see a lot of brown. And it's just dissolving all that calcium carbonate and any calcium-based stuff, because again, this is acidic. Again, I don't know what all the acids are that are in it, but it works really well. And then once we scrub this pretty well, we'll wipe it off once and then probably do it a second time or a third time, depending how clean you actually want it. And if you want to get a better job, it's best to let it sit there at least for a couple minutes, but it would clean it off a little bit better. Now I'm going to use a paper towel just to wipe up most of this. And then I'm going to use my cloth one, dip it in some clean water, and be generous on the water when you're doing this, because you really want to rinse this off well. And dry it off. And see how much nicer that looks? It's basically gone. So I'm going to go ahead and do that just to clean this bag up before I send it back. You see, again, I have 3 or 4 spots here, so I'm going to do the same thing on all of those. Okay, so here's the new harvest panel that goes on the bottom. And this material is highly breathable, very permeable. I mean, the leachate will leak right out of this instantly, so it definitely won't build up. You'll still get the staining and stuff on here, but leachate will find its way out of here. You won't have this container or your harvest panel full of water at all. So let's go ahead and I put the zipper that's on here, I just took that zipper off of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and place this zipper on, same way we did before. Go ahead and slide that in a little bit. Find the open end there. And that'll be the new panel. I'm going to run upstairs and go ahead and put a strap on this, go ahead and sew this together and sew the cover over. And then we'll take one final look at it and see what it looks like compared to when it came in. So there you have it. It's actually pretty simple to replace a zipper pull on a harvest panel. and also to clean up your bag if it's starting to look really nasty, if you happen to get leachate coming through it. Again, that shouldn't normally happen unless you're running the system really wet. But if you're in need of getting a zipper pull or the wax thread or the needle, get a hold of me, and you can most of the time find that on Amazon pretty easily. Or if I had to, I mean, I could ship you that stuff if you happen to do a repair. But the newer bags, again, nobody should really be having these issues with the newer systems. Some of the systems that are almost 3 years old might have that issue. And if you are having that issue with an older system, please let me know. So just show you what the bag looks like when we're done. The new harvest panel that's on it, I mean, it came out really nice. This is the material that I use on all the new bags, so it's very breathable, and you won't ever have any issues with this holding water, retaining moisture in here at all. And then you can see the bag, just see how we cleaned it up and how it looks. I guess I can put it the right way there. So, looks a lot nicer. All those marks were pretty well taken off. It's really easy using that CLR. Now, on the side note, the CLR, you know, it is acidic. Now, maybe you want to wear rubber gloves when you're using it. That's up to you. And you may want to put some goggles on or something because, you know, being acidic, you don't want to get it in your eyes. An alternative to that would also probably be vinegar. Vinegar kind of does the same thing. I just think this stuff works so well that I like it better. And I haven't had any issues with the worms as long as I rinse it off really well. So, but again, if you're nervous about using this, mix up some vinegar with some water, make it fairly, at least 50-50, and you can use that, and that'll take off a lot of the calcium carbonate as well. I hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully you aren't having these issues, but if you are, this is a way of dealing with it. So, till the next video, this is Tom from VermiBag. Ciao.